Hi, I'm Matt, and I like to make tier lists for fun, because I have no more normal hobbies anymore. And I decided that, since I do this kind of stuff anyway in my free time with really no consequence, and I used to make YouTube videos, I'd just record me making some tier lists and post them online for my terrible opinions to be out there in the open for everyone to see. And for this first one, I'm gonna make a tier list of something that I'm sure that everybody on the internet who has film opinions has created. It is a tier list of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So in front of me here, I have all of Marvel's movies in the MCU, plus the TV series like WandaVision and Loki, up until Shang-Chi and What If, which are the two most recent things to come out at the time I'm recording this. What If is still ongoing. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. So this list goes chronological. So the first one up here is the first MCU movie, which is Iron Man 1. And we're starting off on a high note, because Iron Man 1, easy S tier. That is actually my favorite MCU movie, bar none. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. I don't know what people's opinions are of the first Iron Man movie, but I think it is not just my favorite MCU movie, but probably one of my just favorite superhero movies overall. And I think it has a lot to do with, a lot of movies that I like the story behind them, like how it's made, and this one, like aside from it being like Robert Downey Jr.'s like resurgence and him, coming back into popularity in the limelight after, a pretty troubled life. According to Jon Favreau, the director, this movie also barely had a script. Like, it scripted out, like, the action stuff and, like, the general story, but in terms of, like, dialogue, like, that was all apparently, like, done while they were shooting, and you can kind of see it in, like, the improvisation with, like, Robert Downey Jr. and, like, Jeff Bridges and all them, and I don't know, that just kind of makes it feel like more real and grounded in something that a lot of these other movies like don't really have. And I think the rest of the film supports that as well. Like, this is the first MCU movie, so this is before we had like, space aliens and Norse gods and stuff like that. So it's just a guy in a robot suit kicking terrorist ass, and it's just simple, and it feels more like it could be set in the real world than like the rest of them do, which I appreciate. The third act is what a lot of people criticize, and I agree, it is a bit of a problem where Jeff Bridges, who spends a lot of the movie being a villain who's more, charming and like your friend betrayer kind of guy who, as soon as he gets in the Ironmonger suit, he just turns into like a cackling supervillain, and that's kind of weak, and it just turns into your typical MCU, like, bad guy battling a bad guy who has the same powers as him, but boring. But I think, despite the ending, the rest of the movie is strong enough that I can overlook the weak finale and still call it the best one. Iron Man may have been a bad one to start with, because now it's all going to be like, that's my favorite, so the rest of these, it's all going to be downhill. Speaking of downhill, the opposite end of the spectrum from Iron Man 1, almost quite literally, is the Incredible Hulk, Marvel's forgotten child. They don't like to talk about this one a whole lot because there's some like rights issues with the Hulk. And yeah, like I said, opposite end of the spectrum, this one's gonna go into the F tier. A lot of people say this one is one of Marvel's weakest. I had watched it recently because I had never really seen all of it before. Yeah, it's kind of boring. Like, it's not bad. I don't think any of these... For the ones I'm gonna put in, like, the DNF tier, I don't normally think they're, like, bad. Like, I've seen some, like, bad movies. Like, bad superhero movie for me is, like incompetently made, like something like Suicide Squad or, like, Fant Four Stick. Like, those are, like, bad superhero movies. The MCU movies, even when they're, like, bad, they're at least, like, competently made. They're just boring. And, like, Incredible Hulk's just boring. I appreciate that it continued on the promise that Iron Man set up with by having Tony Stark be in the not post-credit scene. But other than that, there's not really a whole lot of things that are remarkable about this one. And if you are doing an MCU rewatch, you can probably skip it. I mean, I don't really think you're getting anything out of it. Except, like, setting up Thunderbolt Ross, setting up Abomination, who I guess is gonna be big again. I don't know, he was in Shang-Chi for like 5 seconds, he's gonna be in She-Hulk, I don't know. Here is an interesting one, Iron Man 2. So Iron Man 2, I would also classify as not a good MCU movie, but here's the thing, I really like Iron Man 2, and it might just because, I don't know, I've probably seen it just as much as the original Iron Man. I think I saw it before I saw the original Iron Man, before I became like obsessed with seeing every single one of these movies in theaters. So this one's a tough one. I might have to come back to this one to properly rank it, because I do have opinions of this in regards to other MCU movies and other Iron Man movies. So for right now, we're gonna put it in C tier, but we'll come back to that and probably futz around with putting that somewhere else. Thor 1. I remember when this came out. I didn't see it in theaters, but I saw it on DVD. And I thought it was really good when it first came out. I thought it was really funny. I haven't really watched a whole lot of it since. I've seen scenes. I've seen I think I watched like half of it one time. But I think right now, in terms of my current tastes and the state of the MCU right now, it's pretty mid. Like, it's pretty forgotten. I mean, the fact that I can't remember a whole lot of it, you know, probably says a lot, so I'm gonna put it in C also. Captain America, the First Avenger. I think this was the first MCU movie I saw in theaters, and it was the one that, after I saw that, I was like, I'm gonna see every single one of these in theaters, because this is now more than just a bunch of different movies connected by the same universe. It's like a big film franchise thing. Yeah, I like this one also. I appreciate that it is a period picture. It's got this like 1940s kind of Indiana Jonesy kind of, you know, throwback quality to it, where it's like an old like pulp movie kind of at times. Oh, B or C tier probably for this one. Oh boy, let's just throw it in B tier for right now. We can move these around later, but for right now I'm feeling B for Captain America 1. Avengers, the first one. Now this one, when this came out, this blew me away. This was like one of the few movies where I saw it in theaters and I was like, that met all my expectations. Watched it again recently. It's still good. I mean, I like movies that have come after it more, especially different Avengers movies. And Joss Whedon's a piece of shit, so that's not fun to go rewatch that for. But I still think it's pretty good. I'm gonna put it in A tier. Very solid team-up movie, and, you know, the fact that this was kind of like, you know, the big, we're doing an Avengers thing now, they're all coming together, you know, it kind of showed, like, you know, this is what the MCU can be. So, very important movie for the MCU, and, you know, I still think it's good. Iron Man 3. Now this is where we're gonna get into the kind of the Iron Man trilogy discussion, because Iron Man 3 I like, but I don't remember a whole lot of, except for the Mandarin twist, which everybody hated, and I actually didn't mind it. In hindsight, with like Shang-Chi coming out, I can understand why it's incredibly problematic. But you know, I don't hate it. Here's what I'll say about Iron Man 3, and this is where we're gonna get into the Iron Man 3 versus Iron Man 2 debate, where I think probably objectively Iron Man 3 is the better movie. I prefer Iron Man 2, if only because it is more memorable. I enjoy watching it more, and I've been telling myself for like years that, like, you know, with certain MCU movies I've only seen once, I'm like, I should go back and rewatch this. And I've seen Iron Man 2 like a few times, because I really liked it when it first came out. But I haven't really gone and rewatched it in a lot of years. And the fact that I have to keep telling myself, oh, I gotta rewatch Iron Man 3, where it's almost like I have to kind of like tell myself that I have to do it, or like hype myself up to do it. Whereas Iron Man 2, I feel like I can go and rewatch it anytime. I'm gonna put this below Iron Man 2. And the order I'm putting these in the tier list is not indicative of like, I like this movie better than this movie. Like, I'm just putting them in like the the tiers themselves. 'Cause I think tier lists are a lot easier for me to make than like top 10 lists, because I don't really like ranking things against each other, like in terms of numbers, like, oh, this is my number 9th ranked one, this is my number 10 ranked one. It's just, that's way more stressful for me, because I overthink it entirely too much. But like tier lists, like, it's kind of like, this is the general area of like how I feel about these movies. Like I feel the same way about, you know, Thor 1 that I do about Iron Man 3, but I don't necessarily think Thor 1 is better than Iron Man 3, so yeah. Thor: The Dark World. Everybody says this is Marvel's worst movie. They are right. I watched this recently also. I did a 2 days where I did Incredible Hulk and I did Thor: The Dark World to be like, which one is the worst one? And I think Thor: Dark World is worse than Hulk. I don't know. I don't have any criteria based on that. It's just kind of like personal enjoyment. I mean, all of this is based on personal enjoyment. Obviously, because I'm ranking Iron Man 2 above some other stinkers. But Thor: Dark World is just kind of boring. And I remember when it first came out, I really liked it. I don't know what I was thinking. I was a teenager. And I was like, I really like Loki in it. And I watched it recently. It's like, Loki's not even that good in it. And it might just be because we have better Loki content now with like Loki and like, you know, other stuff like the Avengers movies and stuff like that. And then like Ragnarok. Yeah, it's boring. It's, yeah. That's about it. I'm even bored talking about it because I don't know much to say about it. Bad villain. It's gray and dull, and let's talk about something better. Here's something better. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I really like Winter Soldier. I like that it's kind of like a spy movie. Captain America versus his country, more or less. The big Hydra reveal was like one of those big MCU moments where like I was like, oh shit, what are they gonna do now? Although mostly I was thinking, what does this mean? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is canceled? Because this came out like right in the middle of its first season. And I still really like it. I used to have this probably ranked in S tier. But I'm gonna put it in A tier now, because I still really like it. But I think there are things in S tier that deserve to be there more than Captain America: Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is still a very good movie. Greatly enjoy that one still. Guardians of the Galaxy, another one I like a lot. That one's also going to be A tier. It's not going to be S tier. That might piss people off, but I like Guardians of the Galaxy a lot. I really do. In my rankings of MCU movies, I know it's in my top 5. I know it's in my top 5. It probably is like my number 5. But I'm not discounting Guardians of the Galaxy. I really do like it. It's very good. James Gunn is very good at making superhero movies. The Suicide Squad was fantastic. Go see that if you haven't already. Yeah, Guardians 1. I mean, what can I say about it that people already haven't said? It's funny. The characters are really good. You know, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a really, really damn good movie. Avengers: Age of Ultron. D tier. I mean, it's a very weird movie because there are a lot of, there's parts of it that I like. Like I really like, you know, Hawkeye. I really like, I know he's not a great villain, but I like Ultron. Like, I oddly like Ultron. I think I like Ultron for the same reason I like Obadiah Stane, Jeff Bridges in Iron Man 1, is because of the performance. And, like, Ultron is this very strange, like, oh, we're doing, you know, AI run amok again in a movie. Like, we haven't done that, you know, 1,000 times already in cinema. But, like, the performance he brings where he's almost this, like, sarcastic, like, childish robot. I don't know, I really like that. And, like, he's not a great villain, and, like, his plan is really weird, and, like, this whole movie is just really weird. But, like, I don't know. Like, I think that's one of those moments where a performance can really save a character. Ant-Man 1, this is going in C tier first of all, but like Ant-Man 1 is like what I think of when I think of basic Marvel movie, where it's like, it's an origin movie, you have your hero, you have some plucky comic relief side characters, you have a female co-star who is not nearly as well written as the male co-star, you have him fight a villain who's just kind of the same thing as him, but boring. It's like, it's as basic as you can get for a Marvel movie, and there's other ones that are in the same kind of tier that like, that do other things also that are like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But like Ant-Man doesn't do a whole lot that's interesting other than like the shrinking stuff, and I guess I like the fact that it's like a heist movie. That's kind of fun. This is kind of like in the same vein as like Thor 1, where like there's not a whole lot of like style or like anything extra it's trying to do to like, you know, make it stand out from like your standard superhero movie. So C tier, this is like dead, I'd say dead middle of like, you know, Marvel movie enjoyment for me. I'm gonna check on, there's a damn cat scratching at my door. Sir, I am trying to record a video. Yeah, you can come in here, but you gotta be quiet, okay? Captain America Civil War. Civil War is another interesting one that I have some opinions on. I think I'm gonna put it in B tier. First of all, this should have been an Avengers movie. This is a much better Avengers sequel than Age of Ultron was, by far. I think Zemo's a pretty good villain, even though, like, he is one of the more, like, you know, he's just kind of a guy. Like, he's not like a big bombastic supervillain like Thanos or anybody. But I don't know. I think the fact that he has that very personal kind of the Avengers killed my family, so I'm gonna destroy the Avengers kind of thing, I think that works really well here. My issues with Civil War are that it sets up the conflict being like the you know, the Sokovia Accords, you know, whatever, like basically superheroes being controlled by the government. But then the Civil War itself isn't even really about that. It's more about like Bucky being framed as a terrorist, and like the entire big airport fight is really more about that than anything about like, you know, the Sokovia Accord stuff. So like I feel like that kind of knocks at points a little bit for having like an interesting thing and then not really focusing on that thing. And then also like even within the realm of the Sokovia Accords thing, like there's sides on it make, you know, some of them don't make a whole lot of sense. Like it makes more sense than I think in the the comic, but like Iron Man's like, I'm all pro Sokovia Accords, so like, you know, superheroes can't go like unchecked and stuff like that. But I'm going to enlist this teenage boy on my side of this conflict and give him like a more powerful suit. And it's like, Tony, you are breaking the actual law you were trying to champion. This is like a B or C tier. It's probably gonna be in B just because I think there's more to it than like your Ant-Mans or your Thors. Not that those are bad movies, but like this is like, it has a little bit more than that, but it still has issues that are kind of, they're probably really nitpicky issues, but like, you know, whatever. I still like it. Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, I'm gonna throw into C tier also. It's kind of the same thing with like Ant-Man, where it's a superhero origin story with a villain that's not super interesting. But Doctor Strange gets a few marks higher than like Ant-Man and Thor because it has like cool visuals, and the ending where he does the time loop thing with Dormammu I think is really interesting. I think Doctor Strange as a character is much better in something like Avengers Infinity War, where he is kind of like, where he's not the focal point, and he's just kind of like more of like the mentor, or almost like the mysterious, all-powerful guy who knows what's going on better than the other heroes do. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. This is gonna be my big hot take of the tier list, I think. I really like Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I like it more than the first one, and I like it more than a lot of other MCU movies. Like, Guardians is probably a more evenly enjoyable movie. Guardians 2 has a lot of pacing issues. The jokes aren't nearly as funny as in Guardians 1. But I think Guardians 2, the themes in there about, like, fatherhood and, like, found family and stuff like that, especially, like, the parallels between, like, Yondu and Rocket and like all the ego stuff, I think is like way stronger themes than the first movie, and a lot of these other movies. Like, I don't know, like this is one of the, I think the fact this is like, I think the only, or one of the only MCU movies to actually make me like tear up every time I watch it, like I think says something. But I personally think it is a fantastic movie. And one of my favorites. It's probably like ranked 4 in my top 5 MCU movies. Okay, Spider-Man Homecoming. This one I'm gonna put in B tier. It's good. I do like it. I think the second half is definitely better than the first half because you have the reveal with Vulture, who, by the way, is another great MCU villain. Michael Keaton is just giving it all he's got in this. I love Michael Keaton anyway, but he is really good in this. Yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people don't like the MCU Spider-Man movies. I like them just fine. I mean, I like the Raimi ones better, but I don't know. I think these are fun. It's Spider-Man as like a young teenager, which we haven't really seen in film before. It's Spider-Man getting to hang out with the Avengers, which I think is fun. Thor Ragnarok, S tier, easy. Taika Waititi, what a filmmaker. He is great. I love everything that he has done that I have seen of his. Ragnarok was the first one, I believe, and it blew me away. It's very good, very funny, very comic booky, which I know is a weird thing to say about superhero movies, but like certain ones feel more like this is like the perfect dichotomy of like movies that I like. Like Iron Man 1, I was saying, feels very grounded and realistic, and Thor Ragnarok is almost the exact opposite, where it's like, you know, it's wacky, it's out there, it's got a talking rock monster and Jeff Goldblum. Which, by the way, if you're a superhero movie and you have Jeff Goldblum and you automatic S tier. Black Panther, another good movie. This one's gonna go in A tier. I really like it. I think Killmonger is probably one of the MCU's best, if not the best MCU villain. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. We miss you. Yeah, people ranting and raved about Black Panther. It is very good. I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than it's good. It's A tier. Avengers Infinity War, S tier. This might be my second favorite MCU movie. Same reason I kind of like Thor Ragnarok. It feels very comic booky in that, whereas the first Avengers felt like this is a comic book superhero team up brought to live action. Infinity War is kind of like, this is a big comic book storyline brought to live action, because it's got like multiple plot threads going. We're cutting between different hero teams and stuff like that, and it's like, you know, there's a lot going on, and I think it does a very good job at like balancing all that. Obviously, I think some characters get left in the dust, like Captain America. Thanos, fantastic villain. Yeah, Infinity War is just, it is superb. Ant-Man and the Wasp, D tier for that one. This one came out, I saw it, liked it, haven't thought a whole lot about it since, that the villains were kind of weak. I think it's one of the more skippable ones. If you're doing an MCU marathon, the only thing in this you really need to watch to understand for the next ones is like the post-credit scene. That's about it. Captain Marvel. This one's also gonna go in D tier, I think. It's okay. I mean, I don't love Captain Marvel's characterization in this movie. I feel like they tried too hard to make her kind of like a snarky Tony Stark kind of badass, but she just came across kind of like a dick. But I like, you know, I like some of the other things there. I like Samuel L. Jackson there. I thought the special effects to make him de-aged were really impressive. Yeah, it's just kind of unremarkable. I do want to see more of Captain Marvel. I just hope they do her justice, because I think she can be kind of cool. Avengers Endgame. This is gonna go in the A tier. I like Infinity War better than this one. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I do think Infinity War is the stronger movie. But I do give Endgame credit that it is a very good, like, season finale, whereas if the rest of the MCU is like a TV series, which it kind of is, Endgame is like a really good, you know, we've been building up this whole season to fighting Thanos, and we're fighting Thanos. Like, you know, this and Infinity War kind of like the 2-part season finale, where like part 1 ends in failure and part 2 is where we really excel. I think it's got really good moments in it, a lot of fan service, but like I think it's well earned. I don't think Thanos is as interesting in this one. Yeah, it's pretty good. I don't like how they treated certain characters like Black Widow and Thor. But other than that, I think it was pretty good. Spider-Man Far From Home, also B tier. I like this and Homecoming about the same. I think I like Homecoming a little bit more, but Far From Home is still good. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is incredible as Mysterio. I think he's the best part of the movie. The ending's really, really something, and I'm curious to see what they're gonna do for that in, like, No Way Home, because I'm concerned that with that one, it's gonna be focused too much on the multiverse stuff, and we're not really gonna have a lot of time with Peter dealing with the fact that everybody knows he's Spider-Man. But, you know, we'll see. I think I have enough faith in the MCU that I think they'll give me what they want for a sequel, but this also has Sony's hands in it, and Lord knows they know how to muck up a Spider-Man movie. Okay, now we're moving on to Phase 4, the newer stuff. Start with some of the TV shows. WandaVision. God, that's kind of a tough one. So, WandaVision, the first few episodes I really like, but then it really drops off at the end. So I think for that, I'm gonna put it in B tier. But if the finale had stuck the landing and the same quality as the previous few episodes, A or S probably. But for right now, B. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I didn't like this nearly as much as WandaVision. Like, it felt mostly consistent all the way through, but it just was nowhere near as interesting. Is D tier too harsh for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or should I put it in C tier? I'm gonna put it in D tier, I don't care. Like, I don't think the villains are super interesting. I think they had something with John Walker, and they just kind of fumbled it at the end. I do want to see more of Sam Wilson as Captain America. I think that'll be interesting for Captain America 4. But for this series, it's kind of like, this is kind of like the middle chapter of, you know, where do we leave him off of Endgame, and where is he going to pick off for Captain America 4? And it kind of feels like that at times. Like, C or D tier for that. Am I being too harsh on this? Should it be C tier? Is this more of a Thor? Or is this more of an Ant-Man and the Wasp? I think it's more of an Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta put you in D tier. They're fictional characters, Matt. They don't care. Okay, Loki. Loki I really liked. Loki might be an S tier. Am I hyping up Loki too much? Because I'll put him in A for right now. Because I really liked Loki. And I know people have issues with the finale, where it kind of feels like a certain character sits down and just kind of tells you, hey, I'm gonna be important in the next few of these movies, so here's my whole shtick. And, like, I kind of agree with that, but I didn't mind it. A or S for Loki? A or S for Loki? S? Because I really do think there is something special about Loki compared to these other ones. It'll go in S. It'll go in S. Okay, Black Widow. Black Widow, that's gonna go in D easily. This was the first one that I remember seeing in theaters that I left the theater being like, I didn't really like that. But I think I'd put it over stuff like Hulk and Thor, only because it had certain things in it that I really liked Florence Pugh as Yelena, and I liked David Harbour as Red Guardian. But other than that, it's like, why did this movie need to exist? Or more or less, why did it need to exist now? Like, I wanted a Black Widow movie, but I wanted a Black Widow movie like 5 years ago or something like that. Like, the fact that they, you know, they waited until after she was already dead to be like, here's a movie set, you know, 5 years ago or whatever. It's like, what's the point? Like, it feels completely pointless, and it's the one that I'm like, yeah, you can probably skip Black Widow watching, because it's like, it doesn't matter, she's already dead. And I know a lot of it has to do with Marvel, or, you know, Disney, Marvel, or whatever, being controlled by, like, sexists for a long time, being like, oh, we can't make a Black Widow movie because she won't sell toys, or whatever. But, like, yeah, it's just, I didn't like it all that much. I don't want to put it in F tier, because I do think there are some things there they found. It's not boring. Like, I think F tier is where the boring ones go. Next, I think this is What If. What If is not finished yet by the time that I have recorded this, but so far, like a B or a C tier, I want to say. I'll put it in B, just because it does have some interesting things going for it, and I'm curious to see where that goes and where it ends up. And it's not like it's like one continuous story. It's like, oh, I gotta see how it ends before I can justify, you know, putting it there. But it's like, you know, they're all kind of their own self-contained stories. So it's like, it'd almost be easier to like do a tier list of like the individual what if episodes, which I might do, who knows. And finally, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. A or B for Shang-Chi, probably. I'll put it in A. This one's really good. Good fights. I think Wenwu was a very good villain. The ending is a little weaker just because it kind of develops into your normal Marvel CGI bullshit. But other than that, the story is pretty good. You know, action's pretty good. So yeah, this is my official tier list of the MCU movies and projects and shows and whatever. You got your upper echelons right here. You got your like mid-tier kind of basic movies and stuff. Then you got your stuff that I thought was kind of boring or lackluster. So this is my terrible opinions on superhero movies. Feel free to disagree, because I know I have some in there that are kind of hot takes, or, you know, probably also bad takes. Yeah. I do not know how to end videos.